This episode of the Answer is Yes Baja Sessions is brought to you by Baja Bound Insurance Services. Driving to Mexico? You can buy and print out your Mexican auto insurance policy online in minutes with their easy-to-use website. They also have great travel information to help you plan your trip south of the border. Visit bajabound.com.
Hi, this is Ryan Thomas, and welcome to the Baja Sessions, where we chat with interesting people with interesting stories about all things related to the majestic peninsula of Baja California. Today, our guest is a friend of mine named Paul Robinson. And while there's definitely a connection to Baja, we met living in the same neighborhood close to 20 years ago. This episode, we're going to dive a little deeper into some pretty heavy topics. Paul's had some traumatic experiences in his life, and he's come out on the other side a better man because of them. He's a fighter. He doesn't give up. He was dead for 13 minutes. He's a downhill ski racer, an off-road racer. He shapes surfboards, wakeboards, and he's 62 years old. So, hey, Paul, how's it going?
Hi, Ryan Thomas. How are you? Mr.
I'm doing great,
Mouse?
man. No, I'm doing great. I'm actually really stoked to, once again, a guest that I know. My life is filled with fascinating people that I've met in Baja, and Paul Double D is one of those people. And I think we met in not so great of circumstances, a situation that involved fish guts and a few other some words between us. But at the end of the day, we become friends, and ultimately, I got to learn a little bit about your story, and I've heard it in bits and pieces, but at the end of the day, you're a guy from San Diego who moved to Sun Valley as a ski nut, and take us through the beginning. This is Paul Robinson.
Hello, everybody. Ryan's got my name and everything right, and pretty much most of the story right. Born and raised in San Diego, Madison High School graduate, Mesa College for 2 years. I was out of high school in 11th grade. I had finished my credits and went off to Mesa College and was out of Mesa College in 2 years. Went to San Diego State for 24 days in trigonometry class. Stood up, said, I'm done. Didn't understand you for the last 2 weeks. I'm gone. 2 days later, I had moved to Sun Valley, Idaho to ski race, and because I had already been ski racing in the Mammoth program as a kid, along with surfing, and moved up here, got a job right away, loading flying squirrel chairlift that is now gone. And,
let's clarify where up here is, Paul. Where are you?
I'm sorry. I'm in Sun Valley, Idaho. First ski resort in America. America's foremost ski resort.
And I promise you this will tie back to Baja. Here, we're starting off in Idaho, but we'll get to Baja.
Back there. We'll go there right now. Spent my time up here. I was here for 30 years, and then my dad passed away. Mom and I were looking around. I was fed up with ice dams on my roof and snow. Even though I'm a ski racer, I was just over it. I don't mind going to skiing, but all the snow related to it, I was over it. And being from San Diego, I was ready to go back to the warmth. Had all kinds of friends already living in the San Jose, Cabo area. I had been vacationing there for a long time on surf trips. I'm a surfboard shaper. Learned that crap in San Diego, brought it here to Idaho, brought it back to Mexico. I've shaped in Oceanside, here, there, everywhere. I'm at almost 6,300 boards now, finished. But anyways, Mom and I moved down to San Jose del Cabo, ended up in a place on Gringo Hill with my immediate next-door neighbor was Mike Doyle, the world-famous surfer Mike Doyle. He and his wife, A&E, became good friends with me and my mom, just because of the proximity. And while I was on vacation before we moved down there, I was on vacation at the same location on Gringo Hill, trying to enjoy my time down there. And for 3 days, I would walk out of my place and walk past this trash can that was just brutal. I was like, what in the world? This is nothing that we did. It's up on our property. Well, Ryan lived in a place on that property, and we didn't know each other yet. And they had gone fishing and caught a bunch of fish, gutted them, and put the guts in the trash can. The trash can had been sitting in the sun for a few days and was rude. It was rude. So I'm on vacation. I spent a lot of money to come from Sun Valley to Mexico for a week or two, and I just wasn't going to have it. So I wrote a kind of it wasn't dirty.
It was a nasty gram is what it was. You left me a nasty gram. So
yeah.
let's so that brings us up to how we know each other. And let's circle back now. You have a race team that you call 9 Lives Racing, and there's quite a few reasons that you call it 9 Lives Racing. Let's go back to the big one that it's visible when somebody meets you. Paul is a burn victim that has an incredible story that I'd love for you to share. And then let's talk about how, you're a normal dude, man. I said this to you a long time ago. You look like you've been through a friggin' war, and you have, but you get to know somebody, and the way they look stops being important. And for me and you, like, I don't see you the way that you look. I don't. I see you as Paul. So you've been through your life has been gnarly, man. We met in Mexico, and that's the connection here. But tell me about that part of your life.
I'll go through it as quickly as I can. In 1980, so living up here, I had to have a job so that I could ski. So I became a house painter. One of the photographers that took a lot of my photos, well, this photographer had a house here in town that was rough-cut redwood on the inside. It had been there for a long time. So all of those little cavities were full of dirt. He wanted the place painted white. It was all like redwood color. So the only way to do that is to use shellac-based primer that's really hot that dries fast to seal in that dirt so it doesn't bleed back through. And then you can paint it with a latex top coat, be done. So the house was gas serviced, and I asked the owner of the house, who I knew as a photographer of me for a long time, 3 or 4 times through the course of the day while we were prepping the inside of the house off, is the gas off? Is the gas guy come? The 4th time I asked him at about 4:30 in the afternoon, July 5th, 1989, yeah, the gas is off, start painting. He had only seen the gas truck drive down the street. The gas guy couldn't find the house and didn't actually turn the gas off. I filled the place up with shellac-based primer, sprayed up into the wall heater with trepidation, hit the pilot light, nothing happened. So, I looked away from that wall heater when I bent down and sprayed up in the grid, hit the pilot light, and I didn't know the pilot light was on. I figured it was off because the gas was supposed to be off. Once I was done with the wall heater, I was like, oh, wow. Turned around, looked at the rest of the wall, started painting down the wall, sprayed over the bubble thermostat, the mercury bubble, because when paint comes out of the spray gun, it was like 80 degrees in the bucket. When it comes out of the tip of the gun, it's 50 degrees. It atomizes. So when that paint hit the thermostat mercury bubble tripped and flipped and clicked. When it clicked, I let off the trigger and looked back at the wall heater, and that's boom! It came out of the wall heater as a helicopter vortex on both sides of the hallway, and the transmission of those fumes with flame happens so fast. It moved probably 15 feet in a super nanosecond, so fast that it blew me down onto my butt. Every inch of wall is rough-cut redwood. Every inch of wall space in that place is now 60 trillion billion match heads all on fire. So every inch of wall space is on fire. I'm on fire. I'm sitting on my butt, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, what do I do? So just behind me about 6 feet was a door that led into the garage downstairs. So I jumped up and thought, okay, dude, forget about the doorknob. From here, you can mow that door down with speed. Well, it was an oak, dead-bolted, opening-in fire door. And all that happened when I hit that thing was I bounced my ass back into the hallway on my ass, looking the opposite direction, still on fire with everything on fire. Now I was like, and everything's running through your mind super fast at that point. And I was like, okay, sit here, give up and die, be burned to death, or you get your ass up and you run back through all of this flame upstairs and you find a way out. So, and through self-preservation, that's what I did. I mean, it wasn't like I was being a hero or nothing. I was trying to save my bacon from being bacon. And so I ran back upstairs through all the flame. Luckily, I kept my respirator on. That's that's one of the things that helped me live, was that I didn't breathe in and get fire or burn my lungs. Get fire in or burn my lungs. Had a ball cap on, spray cap or a spray sock with my respirator. Got up to the door. We had the sprayer out on the upstairs balcony with just, with the door pulled to so just the hose could fit through. So I ripped that door open and leaned over, and there's a handrail along the whole balcony. I leaned over right immediately out the door. It's 50 feet to the ground, and I went, no, can't make that.
And you're still on fire, right?
It's getting worse, Ryan. I mean, everything is getting worse. It's just there's accelerant everywhere. I mean, yeah, it was getting hot. I was getting hot. So when I realized I couldn't make the 50-foot drop, I spun back around, and by now, that only open door with the whole house bagged internally, there was no way for air to enter the home to fuel the flame except for that door. So it was sucking air in at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour through that one door opening. And it tried to pull me back into the unit. When I realized that, I braced up both arms just straight out on the edges of the doors, on the door casing. And my back is starting to burn really bad. I'm feeling it, and I'd had enough. So I was like, I'm over this. Broke free of the suction, got about 5 steps in a straight line at full speed across the deck, launched off my left foot, caught the handrail with my right foot, launched myself into the air, and as soon as I got in the air and looked down, it was 30 feet, but on the north side of the house, freshly planted sod, wet, and being a downhill ski racer, I was just like, okay, well, thank God I'm a downhiller, because this is just big air, bro. Both shoes went through the fresh sod. I ejected out of both of them, left them underneath the sod in the dirt, in the mud, launched, and then tried to stop, drop, and roll down that slope, down that grass slope that was wet. And I rolled into the property line of the neighbor's house. Well, the property line was planted with pine trees. They had never raked the pine needles out of the yard. They only raked them into a berm line on the property line. So there's like a 5-foot by 3-foot line of pine needles for 100 feet on the property line. Well, I rolled right into that.
So
with a little bit of fire still going. The inner pack of those needles was so combustible that when I hit it, it didn't just flash that, it basically exploded that pile, and it stood me back up on my feet. And I was like, okay, well, screw this. I got to find some water, was my first thought. So I took off running. I ran across the street, and there's a thing called the Church of the Bigwood, and the Bigwood River goes right underneath it, and there's a giant swimming hole there. That was a 1/4 mile away, and that's where I was going. Not to mention that the hillside that I set on fire while I was running